Hi, my name is Claudia Fox, and my show is called Success Without College. Thank you for returning to the show if you were here before. And for those of you who are new, I'd like you to know I do have a voice issue from Lyme disease, which we all know about by now. But I'm moving forward anyway. I'm not going to let a little thing like no voice stand in the way, but it is improving. So thank you for tuning back in. Today, I have a wonderful guest who I have known her for many, many years now. Joanne is a realtor, and I'm in real estate myself, so we have a lot in common. And Joanne has been successful, as I have, in real estate. Joanne, however, had college, but she went into a different field. So I thought it would be interesting, especially to hear her journey and how she came to this place. So welcome, Joanne.
Well, thank you, Claudia. Happy to be here today.
Thank you. So, in terms of college, what did you take in college?
Well, you know, when I was growing up, my dad and my family's attitude was that college was to become educated, to learn how to think, to learn how to write, to study history. And so it wasn't treated like a vocational school, which was great on one hand because I didn't feel the pressure to know what I wanted to be when I grew up before I was 18. But it also left the door wide open for me to try new things. So I enjoyed reading, so I started as an English major. And then I thought, well, that's not pragmatic. What am I going to do with that degree when I get out? And I thought, really, I should go into marketing. But I didn't enjoy the business classes. So then I wound up studying psychology, and that's where I have my undergraduate degree. I enjoyed learning about human nature and behavioral psychology and how we become who we are in the world. And it was a fun study. It was a fun study. But I did not want to go into clinical practice or become a therapist. So I still had that question at the end, like, okay, that's great. What do I do now?
So what did you do when you got out of school?
Well, I met with a lot of people that were really generous with their time. And I talked a lot about what I liked about part-time jobs I had while I was going through school. I was in retail. I enjoyed that. And what I enjoyed really was selling. And in the marketplace, there are buyers and sellers, and I didn't have anything to buy at that time. So I wound up working in a business-to-business environment. I worked for Xerox Corporation, and I studied at their sales university, I forget the name of it, in Leesburg, Virginia. And I worked for them for a few years before I left to start a family.
Oh, and so how many children do you have?
I have 3 children, and I have 3 grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I must say, you look great for being a grandmother.
Well, happiness and joy is the best cosmetic out there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So now you're a mom.
Yes.
So did you work during that time?
I was home with the 2 older kids, and during that time, we started to look for a house to purchase. And I was leading that charge. And I was working with an agent who I really liked and I had a lot of fun with. And unfortunately at that time, the market was difficult, and we would get into a situation where where I would try to get a house, the deal would fall through. I had to sell to buy, so a deal fell through on my side. And we were in this process for longer than I anticipated. And I decided I loved looking at houses. I was interested in architecture. I was interested in the negotiations and how it all worked out. And how terms and conditions were as important as the money that was offered, and just all of the business behind buying and selling homes.
And so is that kind of what sparked your interest? Was it at that time or later?
No, it was around that time. I had just finally purchased a home, and I was going to say goodbye to this realtor I had been working with, and he said, you could get your license and then you could keep doing open houses with me. And I'm embarrassed to say I actually got into business, not to start the business, but on a lark, just so that I could be licensed and, keep doing this thing that I loved, which was running around and looking at all of these homes. And, my son was 4, and he wasn't even in school yet. And I really wasn't prepared to full on start my own business. But lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I had my first listing, and I wanted to do a great job for these people. And I was off to the races. And it's a lot of fun. It's a high energy business. I'm a high energy person. And I just loved everything about it. I loved so much about it.
Well, it's funny you should say that you did it on a lark, because I was in a summer house, and there was somebody in the summer house, and at the time I didn't have a job, and he said, well, why don't you come work for us? And it was on a lark, and turned out to be the best thing I ever did. I've been in it over 35 years. How long have you been in real estate?
About 28 years now.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's a good long time.
Yeah.
So what was your process like if someone wants to become a real estate agent? What was the process in terms of education, and how did that work for you?
Well, although you can get an undergraduate degree in real estate, you can also just become certified by the state. So at that point, I think I needed 20 hours to get licensed. I started in New York, and then there's a reciprocal arrangement in Connecticut where I now work. But there's every couple of years we have continuing education requirements that we have to fulfill. So we're constantly getting re-educated as to laws and things like 1031 exchanges, tax changes, getting more information on building inspections and how to guide our clients through transactions. There are professional certifications you can get above and beyond your just standard license. For example, I have an accredited buyer representation certification. You can get certified in working with builders and land and new developments. You can get certified in international real estate and working with the international buyer. So there's a big window for more informal, not degree education, but classes are really widely available.
So in this time, I know you did have an interest in psychology. So how do you think psychology plays a part in real estate for you?
Oh my goodness. So the fun of it all is that I meet people usually at a turning point in their lives. So they're a young family and they want to buy a first house because they're expanding their family, or their kids are growing and they need more space, or they're relocated, or unfortunately they're getting divorced, or unfortunately someone in their home has passed away. So they're at a turning point in their lives. So it's more usually going on than just a purchase. Now, and it's also a big purchase. So it's usually quite stressful for the people involved, even if it's a good, happy move that they're making. So what comes into play is, how do I manage the actual business of a transaction with the emotional component of taking a family from point A to point B with all the changes that means in their day-to-day life. So understanding how different people are motivated, understanding how different people make decisions is really helpful. Some people are all about the numbers, some people are all about the feelings. And it's gratifying. It's really gratifying to know that you're a really big part of their family story. But at the same time, it's, you learn a lot about people and a lot about their backstory if you really want to do a good job.
Well, oftentimes, too, people think, real estate agents, what do I need one for?
Oh my goodness.
I have the internet.
Exactly.
So from my own experience, they don't realize what goes into it in terms of experience, knowledge, wisdom. So, and oftentimes I became friends with these people. So how do you think, like, things that you think they don't realize that you do for them, that you do?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so it's not just the data points that you can get on the internet, right? And it's a couple of different things. So it's interpreting that information. There's a lot of detailed information that you may be able to find out, the size of a lot, but the nuances you don't know, like what it looks at, how loud it is there. I look at 400 houses a week so that you don't have to. I've done 28 years of negotiation, and I've seen a lot of situations arise, so I can use past strategies in current business. I've built relationships with other brokers in my marketplace, so that I have a reputation where I can go in, and if I say something is going to happen, they know it's going to happen. And I also think that the tricky part with real estate too is, as I mentioned before, it's an emotional purchase, and to have sellers and buyers talk directly, it's easy to have hurt feelings, because it's an emotional purchase when it shouldn't necessarily be, but it is. And so to have somebody be a buffer, to have somebody facilitate the transaction, to have somebody that can bring in other professionals if you need more information on what a cost will be on something, if you need an expert on land use, what could be here someday. I have all of those people in my, on my cell phone. Let's just call this professional and find out what the true answer is or what the true implication is, and take something from being overwhelming to something that's quite manageable with the right information.
That's a great answer. It really shows how comprehensive it is. I just don't think people realize it with the age of the internet. So
Well, I have to say, the best agents make it look easy, right?
Yes.
Because if I'm doing my homework, it's going to look easy to my client.
Yes. Do you take time to explain to them some of the background work you do?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, traditionally, you've always sat down with a seller client and gone through a listing presentation and showed all the marketing that you're going to do and what they can expect, and you manage expectations as you go through this process together. And that's great. And I think that that's important, but it was rarely done on the buyer side. And so I always like to meet with my buyers before we start looking at homes to do the same thing. Talk about what this process looks like. Who are the professionals that we'll be calling upon, building inspectors, attorneys, and how I will be able to help them, what paperwork is involved, what's the timing. Okay, so you find a house that you like, and then what? How can they set themselves up to be the best offer, that a seller could ever dream of, even if it's not the highest money? So that we can talk about being prepared and getting your financials in order, having all of your pre-approvals done, and then they're much calmer as they go through the process too. So again, it's all about keeping everybody calm, preparing for the next stage of the transaction, and feeling good about how we're proceeding. Feeling like they're not overwhelmed. They understand this. They were told this could happen.
Yeah, so projecting out these are things that could happen often does keep people calm.
Exactly.
There's so many emotions that are involved. And I do recall my very first real estate transaction. I lost it over a chandelier.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I did not understand how to keep everyone calm. I was getting emotional. Oh my goodness, I'm going to lose this deal over a chandelier. Well, my next deal, I was so much calmer, and I kept saying positive things to this side about this side, and kept every emotion
Yes.
under wrap, and the next deal went through. It was a hard lesson.
It is a hard lesson, and I think the other thing that I try to keep top of mind is that this isn't about me at the end of the day.
Right.
It's not about whether my deal goes through. It's whether their purchase goes through.
That's good.
And so I kind of make it my mantra that if I get up every morning and I'm helping people around me, I'm going to be taken care of financially. Like, I will do good work, and the word will get around, and I will be successful. But the idea isn't to sit out in the morning and say, how many deals can I close? It's how helpful can I be? Who's ready to make this move? What's the priority of the day? And you know, just get into it. Like, what information would I want if I were my client, either a seller or a buyer? And get them that information. Be a good educator. You know, that's
great.
important.
Yeah, you got to a spiritual place.
Yes.
My first year, I wasn't in a spiritual place. I was like, let's make money. How are we
Yes.
going to do that? Eventually, I came around to where you are.
But I think that's maturity too, and
Yeah.
wisdom with aging, right?
True,
Right.
very true.
Right.
Well, also, I'd like to talk about, you've worked at different companies. So how do you think it is to work for a smaller company versus a larger company? And talk a little bit about teamwork and interaction.
This is a really collaborative business, and whether you're in a small office or you're in a large office, you're really not only just working with those people under that same umbrella, you're working with all of the agents in your marketplace. Some days you'll be the listing agent, some days you'll be the selling agent, but you've got to have a good reputation with everybody. So it's a very collaborative business, and I think that that's very important, is to treat others with respect and professionalism, number one. If you're with a small company these days, I have to say the internet is a great equalizer, because you do have everybody has access to it, so everybody can disseminate information. So it has somewhat leveled the playing field, except that then you get into, you know, placement in the search engines, and you know, I find that real estate is a very personal business, and so a great deal of my transactions and my customers come through me through other professionals. So the network is so important. Everybody gets information online. I think 90% of the buyers start out online. But then when they go to actually make a purchase, they're going to ask their friends, who do you know in this area? Or if they're moving out of an area, they might go to their local agent or their mom's agent and say, do you know anybody in Boston? Do you know anybody in California? And that's where I think it's really important to work for a firm that has some kind of a referral network and can hand off clients based on who they are, how they work, to the right match for them and their destination. You know, whether it's a millennial who is never going to pick up the phone and just wants texts,
Right.
or whether it's somebody that really wants to talk it out on the phone and you know, hammer things out. It's a different personality, and then you want your referral to know how that person works so that they're comfortable. And I think that that's been a huge part of my success, is just, you know, the collaboration. And you know, I'm with a large office now, and I do see the benefit, especially because my marketplace is an international destination, and so it has an international coverage. And that was really important to me, because my clients could be coming from Germany. I just did a rental with a family coming from the UK. I don't know where these people are going to come from, so it's not always local.
Okay, so it brings to my mind, what is a day in the life of Joanne Gorka? Is it, and how many days do you work each week? If someone were watching,
All of them.
All of them.
Well, when you have your own business, all real estate agents are independent contractors, and we work under the umbrella of these companies, but we are not employees. And you know, our clients usually want our attention when they're off. So a lot of the business takes place outside of that 9 to 5, those hours, and so they want us when they're available. So there are half days I'll have off. Sometimes I can get a day off. I do go on vacation, but I'm always checking my phone for emails or texts, or at least just saying to somebody, can I get back to you tomorrow? How urgent is this? And having somebody cover. What I love about my job is on a day-to-day basis, I don't know. I always have a plan, and then the phone rings, and the plan changes. And it keeps it really interesting. I believe in suiting up so that I can show up. I want to look like, you know, I'm ready to negotiate. I'm ready to make a big monetary transaction. And, you know, and more often than not, you know, my game has changed, and I'm glad I was ready. I'm ready for anything. I have beautiful properties for $6 million on the water. I also do apartments, co-ops, investment properties, raw land. Always have boots in the car, in the trunk. You could be walking through the mud. It's very sexy. Meeting the septic man. I mean, it can be really, it can be very, very, very wide range of activities during the day. But everything is, you know, everything is germane. So what's going on in the stock market, what's going on in the school system, what's going on in coastal management, it's all important because it matters to the properties that are you know, in those zones. So it keeps me on my toes. It challenges me and keeps me interesting to myself.
Well, what do you think technology, how does that play a part in your profession?
Well, it makes disseminating information easier. And I'm a firm believer that, I'm going to steal somebody else's marketing line, that an educated consumer is our best customer, you know, because, you know, it's a big decision to make, and information is power. So I think that that's really, really helpful. I think being able to put something on Instagram or put something out on the internet and know that it's, you know, being read by, you know, people in China, people in, like I said, Germany, somebody in Hawaii. I mean, that's great. I mean, it's really kind of changed the way the message gets out. Mm-hmm. You know, print publications are nice, but they're really not as effective unless they're hyper-local. And it's just, it's made it very easy to track transactions and very easy to share information. And so that we can actually, and keep people in the know. So we can trade documents and everybody can be on the same page very, very quickly. It's helpful.
Thank you. So if you were to say, sum up why you think you've been so successful, where do you think that comes from? Within you, outside of you, mentors? Is it motivation from within? What do you think that is for you?
I think I'm naturally a high energy person. I'm definitely a people person. I do get energized from being around people. I do like to have a different scenario every day. Like I would never like a desk job. So that all feeds my curious mind, and I'm always learning something new. And that is just really interesting to me. And I also, like you said, I form relationships with the people that I work with, you know, both my colleagues, even people that are competitors, become friends, and certainly my clients. You know, I care about them. I want them to be happy, you know, and they wind up being in my town. I'm going to see them in the grocery store. I'm going to see them at Starbucks. And that winds up being, you know, the best generation for new leads, too, is that a happy client will tell their friends, and you know, it just, I think that speaks volumes. You know, a reference from someone who's happy, a referral from someone who's happy beats any number of shopping carts with my picture on it.
That's true. That's true. And I know you travel to Australia.
Yes.
To see your daughter,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Her husband and grandchildren.
Yes.
Now, when you go on these trips, do you meet people that are prospects, or do you say to yourself, this is my time, I'm shutting down from?
Oh, I can't. I pick up the real estate, you know, magazines and get online immediately. I can't help it. I'm addicted. And I love to pop in, and because I'm with an international company, I can pop in a local office. I can make a personal introduction, because you never know who, you know? You never know when you'll need somebody that's in Sydney. And so it's,
Right.
and now I'll be able to say, I met her. You know,
That's
and in
true.
Brooklyn and wherever I go, I love to, yeah, it's, I don't know whether it's a sickness or whether it's,
I think when
it's a lot of fun.
yeah, and I think when you're passionate
Yes.
about what you're doing, there's a little
Yes.
addictive quality to it, because they often say people who are successful, they work in spurts.
Yes.
So they might work late, they might get up early, might be a week, then they take some time to replenish. So I think there's a little passion, addiction quality that goes to it.
Yes, that's my case. Yes, I agree. I can relate to that a lot.
Yeah. Do you set goals at the
Yes.
beginning of the year?
I do. I do a business plan every year. I also keep a rolling forecast that has to change, you know, an income forecast. I look at my, you know, I have a business spending plan, so I know how I want to allocate my funds to reinvest in my business. And yeah, you need hard numbers to know if you're on track. You know, how many listings do I have to sell the amount that I need to make the income that I want? So unless you're looking at the numbers, you really, you know, you don't know.
You don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we have to wrap up, unfortunately. I'm enjoying learning about your business, and I thank you for
well,
coming
thank you
on
for
the show.
inviting me.
And hopefully inspiring some people out there who are interested in real estate and got kind of a bird's eye view of what goes on in the life of Joanne Gorka and a realtor. So thank you so much. I hope you'll tune in to our next show. Have a good day.